Start the recording. All right. So what we're going to do today is section 3.5, which is on systems, solving systems of equations in 3 variables. We're going to warm up, first of all, just solving equations, 2 equations with 2 variables. And then we'll get into the 3 equations in 3 variables. And I'm also going to show you a calculator trick that should take some of the pain out of this section. So before we get into the 3 equations and 3 variables, let's look at a problem like number 1. So we're going to have 2 equations, and each equation is going to have 2 variables that you're going to be solving for. Okay, so number 1 looks like this: 6x plus 3y equals negative 45. The other equation is 8x minus 3y equals negative 81. So what I want to do is, since I have 2 equations and 2 different variables, I want to figure out what x is and what y is that will satisfy both of these equations. Okay, and in order to do that, I want to be able to add these equations straight down and either eliminate the x's or the y's, which means I would want them to cancel each other out. So let's look. If I add these equations straight down the way they're written, I would have 6x plus 8x, which would give me 14x, which means the x's wouldn't cancel. But look what happens with your y's. If I added these equations straight down, I had a positive 3y and a negative 3y, the y's would cancel or knock each other out, which is exactly what I want to happen. So since these 2 equations are set up nice for us and I can add them together and my y's will cancel, let's do that. So 6x and 8x gives me 14x. My y's cancel, right? They're just all the way gone. If I add them together, there's nothing left. Equals, if I add these straight down, I get negative 126. So now look what I have. Now I just have 1 equation, and the only unknown I have is this x, and I can solve that equation for x by dividing both sides by 14. So if I do that, these 14s cancel. Now I have x equals a negative 126 divided by 14 gives me negative 9. So now I know what part of my answer is. I know that these x's are negative 9s. So what I'm going to do is take this negative 9 and go up to I can always go up to my very top equation. I'm going to put the negative 9 in this x's spot because I know x is negative 9. That's just what I found. So let's go back up and put a negative 9 in this spot. So I'll have 6 times negative 9 plus 3y equals negative 45. Now, look at this equation. Now you have an equation where the only unknown is the y, which means now I can solve this equation for y. So let's do exactly that. 6 times negative 9 gives me negative 54. Bring down my plus 3y equals negative 45. Solving for y. So let's get rid of this negative 54 with a positive 54. cancels. All I'm left with over here is 3y equals, I have negative 45 plus 54, which gives me positive 9. So now look what I'm left with. 3y equals 9. So if I divide both sides by 3, I'm left with y equals 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So I know the x is negative 9 and the y is positive 3. When you enter your answer, it's going to ask you to enter your answer as an ordered pair, because what you have just found is if I solve these both for y, put them in my y equals on my calculator and graph them at the same time, they would cross at that point. Negative 9, 3, where the x coordinate is negative 9 and the y coordinate is 3. So that is your answer. It's an ordered pair at negative 9, 3. Okay? Let's look at number 2. Five x plus 3y equals negative 11. And 3x minus y equals negative 1. Now, this brings in something a little new, okay? Remember, the goal of the first step is to be able to add the equations straight down, and either your x's cancel or your y's cancel. But if I do this here, if I add my x's straight down, I get 8x. If I add my y's straight down, I have 3 and negative 1. If I add those together, I get positive 2, which means nothing cancels if I add those equations straight down. So that's not going to work. The whole goal of the first step is to cancel your x or your y's. Now, remember, there is an equation rule that states if I do something to one side of the equation, it can be anything, it doesn't matter. As long as I do it to one side and then the other, the same exact thing, I've kept my equation balanced and I'm still good. So remember, keeping that in mind, along with the fact that I need to cancel my x's or my y's, the first thing I'm going to look for is a 1 or a negative 1. So I see this negative 1 right here. And the reason I say that, it's not always going to happen, but the reason I say that, it's just real easy to turn a 1 or a negative 1 into whatever you want it to be by multiplying it. So let's see, looking at this y, it's positive 3, which means I would need this y to be negative 3 to knock this out. If I knock this out, then I've achieved my goal of eliminating the y. So let's see, what would I multiply this negative 1 by to make it the negative 3 that I need it to be? Well, negative 1 times positive 3 turns this into a negative 3, which is what I want it to be. Now remember, this right here, if I do it to this side, I have to do it to the other side. So let's see what this turns this equation into. 3 times 3x gives me 9x. 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3y equals 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3. So what I've done is I've changed this equation into this equation where the y's will cancel. So now that I've changed this, I don't even need that equation anymore. Forget about it. Let's add those two equations together that we have left. Let's see. 5x and 9x gives me 14x. My y's cancel, 3 and -3, right? Those cancel, that was the whole point. Equals, let's see what we have on the other side. We've got -11 and -3, which gives me -14. I have one equation with one variable to solve for now. So I'll divide both sides by 14. My 14's cancel, so there's my x equals -14 over +14 is -1. So there's your x. Now remember, once you get your x, then you got to take it back up to this very top x and put it in that spot to solve it for y. So I'm going to go up here where I see this x, I'm going to put a -1. So let's see what that does to this equation. 5 times -1 plus 3y equals -11. So now that you've replaced the x with a number, all you have, the only unknown is the y. So that's what you're going to solve for. So let's see what that gives me. 5 times -1 is -5. Bring down my plus 3y equals -11. Solving for y, so I need to get rid of the -5 with the +5. y equals -11 plus 5 is -6. So I'll divide both sides by 3. So now I know y equals -6 over 3, which is -2. So now I know x is -1, y is -2. So when you enter your answer as an ordered pair, you'll have -1, -2. All right, number 3 brings in, this is the one that people usually have the issues with. (6x minus 9y) equals 7.5. The second equation is 7y minus 2x equals -4.5. Now, the first issue that I see with this problem is that my x's and my y's don't line up with each other. You need to fix that, right? You want your x's in a column and your y's in the column. So what I need to do here is just flip-flop these so that the x will be under the x and the y will be under the y. So I'm not going to rewrite. I'm just going to erase these two and put them in each other's spot, flip-flop them. So I'm going to put the -2x here and the 7y here. So now my x's line up, my y's line up. If I add my x's together, they wouldn't cancel, and if I add my y's together, they wouldn't cancel. So now I've got to mess with either one, sometimes both of the equations. Now let's look at my x's. The top x is a positive 6. The bottom x is a negative 2. So can you turn a negative 2 into a negative 6? That's what you're going to need, right? You need to knock this positive 6 out with a negative 6. If I'm going to do that, I need this to be a negative 6. Well, what can you multiply negative 2 by to make it negative 6? Well, I can do that. Negative 2 times 3 right? And 3 times negative 2, negative 6, and a negative 6 will knock out a positive 6. If I do this whole side, I have to do the other side. So I'm multiplying that whole second equation times 3. Three times negative 2 gives me negative 6x. 3 times 7y gives me positive 21y equals 3 times negative 4.5 gives me, negative 13.5. Now remember, the equation that I just messed with, I can get rid of because I don't need it anymore. I changed it into the one that I can use. So let's add together the remaining 2 equations that I have left. What's going to happen to these x's? I've got positive 6 and negative 6, so they're just going to cancel each other out. Moving on to my y's, I've got a negative 9 and a positive 21, which is going to give me 12y. Add the other side, 7.5 and negative 13.5 gives me negative 6. Okay, just punch that in your calculator, 7.5 minus 13.5. So now look what I've done. All I have is an equation that just has a y that I can divide by 12 by, to be left with y equals negative 6 over 12. If you punch that in your calculator, here's something, negative 6 divided by 12. It's going to tell you negative 0.5. In a lot of sections, I will math enter that, right, to turn it into a simplified fraction. This problem doesn't require you to do that. And the reason is, if they start off a problem with a bunch of decimals in it, they're going to accept decimals in your answer. So you can just put in negative 0.5, which is exactly what you got in your calculator if you put in negative 6 over 12. So there's part of it. Now I know y is negative 0.5. What am I going to do with that? Remember what you do with your first answer. You take it back up to your top equation and you replace the variable that it represents. This one's representing the y. So I'm replacing this y. So I'll have 6x minus 9 times, putting in the negative 0.5, equals 7.5. So now, the only unknown variable in this equation is this x, which I'm now going to solve for. So I'm going to do this math right here. So I'm going to bring down the 6x. Negative 9 times negative 0.5. What does that give you? Negative 9 times negative 0.5 gives you positive, right? It turned positive since you had a negative times a negative, 4.5. equals 7.5. All right, solving for x still, getting x by itself. So I need to get rid of this plus 4.5 with a minus 4.5. So those cancel. What am I left with on the left side? Just a 6x equals 7.5 minus 4.5 is 3. Divide both sides by that 6 to get the x by itself. So x equals 3 over 6. If you type that in your calculator, you get 0.5. Now, when you enter this, remember, it's going to be entered as an ordered pair since you just found out where these two lines cross. Doesn't matter which variable you solve for first. The x, even though it was the second variable I figured out, it's always the first coordinate, right? So my x is positive 0.5, and my y is negative 0.5. All right, now we're going to learn a little calculator trick for the next one. Now, it'll take us a minute to get used to the matrix function on the calculator. Once we do, though, all this math that we just, you won't have to do any of this. All right, I'm going to write number 4 on the board, and then we're going to work it in our calculator. So if you have a TI-84, get it out right now so you can follow along with me. 3x plus 2y equals 34. Two x plus 3y equals 36. So first things first, check, make sure you wrote everything down right. 3x plus 2y equals 34. 2x plus 3y equals 36. We're going to use the matrix function in the calculator, and I'll get to that in a second. Where the matrix looks like this. I'm going to create matrix A. It's going to come from just the number part of this side of the equal sign. So in my top row, I'll have a 3 and a 2. In the bottom row, I'll have a 2 and a 3. Then we're going to create a matrix B. It's going to come from these numbers that are on the other side of the equal sign. So I'll have a 34 and a 36. Now, let's look at the calculator and see how to put this in. So, you're going to hit the second button. And then if you'll look right above this x to the negative 1, you'll see matrix. So that's why we hit the second button, because we want to go to that matrix function. So there's matrix. Yours probably might be just clear right here. You may not have anything in here. So the first thing I'm going to do when you're creating the matrices in your calculator, you need to come over here to edit. So first of all, go over, using this arrow key, just go over to edit and hit enter. Now yours is probably blank. I've been working in mine, so I've already got some matrix stuff in there. Yours may say matrix A and it may be blank. It may not. The first thing you need to do, what this is asking up here, is asking you to put the order of the matrix, which means this first number is how many rows are going to be in your matrix. This second number is how many columns are in your matrix. So let's look at ours. My matrix A, rows go this way. So how many are there? 1, 2. So there's going to be 2 rows by how many columns are there? Columns are up and down. There's 1 column, 2 2 columns. So you're going to create a 2 by 2 matrix. So that's exactly what you're going to tell that. Hit 2. I'll just hit 2, enter, 2, enter. So look what it did. It made my matrix go down to just 2 by 2. Now you're going to enter this 34 and, oh, not 34, 3, 2, 2, 3. So 3, enter, 2, enter. So see how it changed my top row to match the top row of this matrix? The bottom row is 2, 3. So 2, enter, 3, enter. So you'll see now the matrix in my calculator looks like the matrix A on the board. So now I need to create the matrix B. So I'm going to go back to second, down to this matrix function. I still am creating a new matrix, so I'm going to go over to edit. Now, which one am I doing? I need to come down here to this matrix B. So go down to matrix B and hit enter. So let's see, what kind of matrix is this? What is the order of this matrix? How many rows does it have? It's got 2 across. How many columns? Well, there's just 1 column, so it's going to be 2 by 1. So tell your calculator that. Up here, you need to change this to 2 by 1. So 2, enter, 1, enter. Then enter the 34 and 36 in those 2 spots. So 34, enter, 36, enter. Now, to get out of this editing mode, you're going to want to hit the second button, and then right next to the second button is the quit. So second, quit, to get you back to just the plain home screen. If there's anything in there, just hit clear. So what I'm going to do is type in matrix A to the -1 matrix B. That's what I want to tell my calculator now. So I'm not editing. So go to second matrix again. So second matrix. Now leave it on names because you want to name matrix A. So just go ahead and hit enter. So there's, see how it puts matrix A right there on your home screen? Now to get the -1, you just hit this X to the -1 button. So that gives you a -1. Now what do I need to see? I want to see A to the -1 B. So now let's go back to my matrix. So second matrix. So I want to put the B, so I need to go down 1, right? See how the cursor's on 1? I need it to be on the B, so I'll go down 1. Enter. So your screen should look like that. Matrix A to the -1, matrix B. Hit enter. There's your answer. The top number is your X. The bottom number is your Y. So when you type in your answer is 6, 8. Type it in as your ordered pair, 6, 8. So again, just walking through the steps. You'll have your 2 equations. Matrix A will come from those numbers, 3, 2, 2, 3. So you'll edit matrix A. Then you'll edit matrix B and use what's on the other side, 34 and 36. So that's both in the edit mode, right? You're creating matrices. You're using the edit mode of matrix, okay? Once you do that, you'll hit second quit. Then you'll go to second matrix, hit A, then hit your -1 button. Second matrix B. Hit Hit enter to get your answer. Now, this comes in very handy when we're going to get into the next kind of problems that have 3 different equations and they have 3 different variables, an x, a y, and a z. Those take a full sheet of paper. You get lost in the mix. There's all kinds of canceling and rearranging and using letters here and all this. There's so much room for mistake that once you get used to the matrix function on your calculator, there's no other way to do it. Okay? Now, I am going to work 5 and 6 real quick, and then we'll do some 3 equations in 3 variables. Okay, number 5 says it's a multiple choice and it says choose from the list below the option that is an example of a linear equation in 3 variables. You've got 1 over x plus 1 over y plus 1 over z equals 1. X plus y minus z equals 1. X plus y equals 1. And x equals 1 as your 4 options. It just wants you to pick out the linear equation in 3 different variables. Well, first of all, if there's 3 different variables, you're going to see 3 different letters, which means no and no. These both have 3 different variables, but one is linear and one is not. If your x and y and z are in the denominator of a fraction, then you are not linear. It has to be not in the denominator of a fraction. So that right there is a linear equation in 3 different variables. Now, number 6 shows what an answer to this kind of problem should look like. Instead of, remember when we were doing the 2 equations in 2 variables where there was just an x and a y? Your answer was an ordered pair with the x answer there and the y answer there. Well, if you have 3 equations in 3 variables, your answer is going to be what's called an ordered triple. Still in parentheses, it's just going to have an x, a y, and a z. So that's what your answer is going to look like. With the number you get for x first, the number you get for y second, and the number you get for z last. So that's what number 6 is asking. Let's go to number 7. I'm going to work one problem out by hand, and then I'll work it out using the calculator to show just the math behind it, what you're doing when you're punching in all those numbers to the calculator, so that you're just not punching them in there mindlessly, that you've at least seen the process one time. I'm going to do it once, and then we don't ever have to do it again. Let's look at what number 7 would look like and what you would have to do on the rest of the problems without the calculator. X plus y plus z equals 2. Two x plus 4y plus 2z equals 6. And negative x plus 8y minus 3z equals 5. Now, remember on the 2 equations and 2 variables, we just needed to knock out either the x's or the y's. I'm going to start off the same way, but I have to knock out the same letter twice in 2 different ways. So looking at these equations, I see that this top equation and this bottom equation already have the x's in a great shape, right? I've got a positive 1x and a negative 1x, which means if I add those two equations together, my x's will cancel each other out. So let's do that. Remember, we're just doing this once. So the top equation and the bottom equation, my x's cancel, x and negative x cancel. Let's see, my y's, I have a positive 1y and a positive 8y, which is 9y. A positive 1z and a negative 3z gives me negative 2z. And then a 2 and a 5 gives me 7. So I knocked out my x's. Now, here's the thing. If I knock out my x's one time, I've got to figure out a way to knock them out again. So let's look at what that would look like. I can't use the same two equations. So let's use and just pick any other combination. Let's see, if I use these top two equations to knock out my x's, what would this x need to be to knock out this one? It would need to be negative 2, right? A negative 2 is what knocks out a positive 2. How do I turn that into a negative 2? Well, since it's 1, that's easy. I'm just going to multiply it by negative 2. So let's see what that gives me. Negative 2 times x gives me negative 2x. Negative 2 times positive y gives me negative 2y. Negative 2 times positive z gives me negative 2z. The other side, negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. Now remember, any equation that you mess with, you can now forget about. So let's see what happens here. This actually works out really, really nice. Negative 2x, positive 2x, cancel. Then do your y's. You have what? Negative 2 and positive 4. What does that give you? Negative 2 and 4 gives me, I'll write it over here, 2y. Now, this doesn't usually happen, but look what happens to your z's coincidentally. I've got negative 2z and positive 2z. They cancel. So all I'm left with on the other side of my equals is a negative 4 and a positive 6, which is 2. So this actually worked out very nice. It doesn't usually do this. What happened? My x's canceled and my z's, which means I can solve this for y. If I solve this for y, if I divide both sides by 2, what do I know? I know that y equals 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and try and find an equation anywhere in the problem that has a y that I can replace and just one other letter. So not an x, a y, and a z, just a y and one other letter. Look at this one right here. It just has a y and a z, right? Because I had eliminated my x's right here. What do I know y is? I know y is 1. So put the 1 here. So 9 times 1 minus 2z equals 7. 9 times 1 is 9. Minus 2z equals 7. Solving for z, so if I subtract the 9, get rid of that 9, now I have negative 2z equals 7 minus 9 is negative 2. So what's the last step to find the z? Divide by this negative 2. So the two negative 2's cancel. So I'm left with z equals what? What is negative 2 over negative 2? It's 1. So now what do I know? I know y is 1, and I know z is 1. So I only have one letter that I now have left to find, which is x, which means I can go back up to any of the three original equations, replace the y with 1 and the z with 1. Doesn't matter. Let's just do this middle one. Since I already, you can use this one. I'm just going to use this one right here. I'm going to replace the y with 1 and the z with 1. So let's look at what that looks like. So I still have 2x plus 4 times 1 plus 2 times 1 again, right? Z is 1 equals 6. So let's see what that gives me. Do these multiplying. 2x plus 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 times 1 is 2 equals 6. Let's see, if I combine that 4 and 2, since they're on the same side of my equal sign, I'm going to put those together. So that's going to give me 6. So I really have 2x plus 6 equals 6. Still going. Subtract 6 from both sides. So 2x equals 0. If I divide both sides by 2, x equals what? What is 0 over anything? Is 0. So now I know x is 0. Let's see. All back in this mess, I see it's found here that y was 1. And I found here that z was 1. So when you enter your answer, x, y, z, you'll have 0, 1, 1. So we want to avoid that as much as possible, right? Let's work that same problem in our calculator. We'll have time to work 2 of these. So we'll work that same one again, just to show you the easiness of it. We'll do 7 and then we'll do 11. 8, 9, and 10 are exactly the same. You're going to follow the same exact steps in your calculator. So let's okay, so we had x plus y plus z equals 2. X plus 4y plus 2z equals 6. Negative x plus 8y minus 3z equals 5. So again, make sure you got all your numbers right. X plus y plus z equals 2. 2x plus 4y plus 2z equals 6. Negative x plus 8y minus 3z equals 5. So remember, we're going to create 2 matrices. A matrix A and a matrix B. Matrix A, this time, it's going to come from all the number parts of this. So what's in front of these if you don't see them? They're all 1. So 1, 1, 1. The second row will be 2, 4, 2. And the third row will be negative 1, 8, and negative 3. So that's going to be your matrix A. Matrix B is the answer side. So 2, 6, 5. So remember, the first thing when I get into the matrix function, it's going to ask me what is the order of the matrix that you're trying to punch in, which is how many rows. So this one has 3 rows. How many columns? 1, 2, 3. So that one's 3 by 3. Matrix B has how many across? 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 by how many columns here? Just 1. So 3 by 3 and 3 by 1. So let's go punch these in. So I'm going to clear everything out. So I'm going to go to second matrix. Now, remember, you want to go over to the edit mode, right? You're creating some new matrices that you haven't used before. So you're going to go over to edit, enter. So remember, the first thing you need to tell it, since it says 2 by 2, that's not what you want. Now you're doing 3 by 3. So 3, enter to change it to 3 by 3. And see how it stretched it out to give you enough room to put all your numbers? So let's see, that first row is all 1, 1, 1. So 1, enter, 1, enter, 1, enter. The second row, you want to do 2, 4, 2. So 2, enter, 4, enter, 2, enter. So change it to 2, 4, 2. And the bottom row is -1, 8, -3. So remember, your negative button's down here. -1, enter. 8, enter. -3, enter. So remember, your matrix should match this matrix right here on the board. 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2, -1, 8, -3. So now, let's go back to, we've created our first one, so go back to second matrix. Now I want to create this B matrix. So I'm still editing, I'm still making a new matrix. So I go over to the edit function, hit enter. Ooh, what'd I do wrong? Second matrix. I went over to edit, and then I hit enter, but I don't want to edit by A. I've already done that. I need to go down, right? Down to matrix B to edit that one. So matrix B is 3 by 1. So I need to tell it 3, enter, 1, enter to change it to a 3 by 1. What are my numbers? 2, 6, and 5. So 2, enter, 6, enter, 5, enter. So make sure matrix B in your calculator matches matrix B from the problem. Now you want to quit everything you're doing. So hit the second button, and then right next to second, hit quit. That'll get you to your home screen. If anything's in there, just clear it out. Now remember, the final step is to do matrix A to the -1, matrix B. So back to matrix. Second matrix. Now you don't want to edit, right? You want to stay in names. You just want to name matrix A. So there, hit enter. Then hit your X to the -1 button to get that -1 up there. Now you want to hit matrix B. So second matrix. You want to stay in names, but now you want to go down to B. So there's your B. Enter. So you should have matrix A to the -1 B. Hit enter. There's your answer. X, Y, and Z are 0, 1, and 1, just like we got when we did all that work. And to be honest with you, there was actually, since there was one thing that kind of worked out in that problem that actually made it shorter than most problems. So again, get used to that matrix function. All right, we have time to do just one more real quick. We'll go to number 11, just to get one more practice in using our matrix function. All right, 11 is 6r minus s plus t equals 6. 6r minus s plus t equals 6. 3r plus 2s minus 3t equals negative 3. And the last one, r minus 3s plus 2t equals negative 5. So we're going to use this, come up with a matrix A and a matrix B. So let's see, A comes from all the numbers on this side of the equal sign. So I'm going to have 6. This is negative 1. Positive 1. So 6, negative 1, 1. Second row is 3, 2, negative 3. Last row is 1, negative 3, 2. So that would be matrix A. Matrix B is the answer side of this problem. So 6, negative 3, negative 5. So I'm going to check that again. 6, negative 1, 1. 3, 2, negative 3. 1, negative 3, 2. 6, negative 3, negative 5. Okay, so let's go to matrix. So I'm just going to clear everything out. Second matrix. Now remember, every time you're starting a new problem, you're going over to edit, right? You got to create your new matrices. So there's matrix A, edit, enter. Still doing 3 by 3, so enter, enter. No, that's not changing. My first row, I need to change to 6, negative 1, 1. 6, enter. Negative 1, enter. 1, enter. So 6, negative 1, 1 up top. My second row is 3, 2, negative 3, 3, enter, 2, enter, negative 3, enter. And my bottom row is 1, enter, negative 3, enter, and 2, enter. So make sure that your matrix in your calculator matches the matrix from the problem. All right, now go to matrix B. So second matrix, still editing, right? I'm still creating my new matrices for my new problem. So go over to edit, go down to B, right? I already did A, now I need to fix my B. So go down, enter. Matrix B is also 3 rows, 1 column. So it's still 3 by 1. So you can just hit enter, enter to not change anything. Now, what do I need to do? I need to put in 6, negative 3, negative 5. 6, enter, negative 3, enter, negative 5, oops, negative 5, enter. So 6, negative 3, negative 5. Now, to get out of all this editing mode, because the last step is to do matrix A to the negative 1, matrix B. So let's see, always do this. If not, I think it messes up. Second, quit. Just get out of everything, go to your home screen. Matrix A, so second matrix. I don't want to change anything. I've already edited my matrices to match the problem, so just hit enter. Then hit your X to the negative 1 button. So this will give it the negative 1. Then second matrix. This time you need to B, so go down to B, enter. So A to negative 1B, hit enter, there's your XYZ. So 1, 6, 6 is what you would enter as your answer as an ordered triple, 1, 6, 6. Okay? So I know it'll get a little bit, it'll take a minute to get used to that matrix function, but once you get used to it, it'll be so much easier than going through the whole process of doing all that work. Okay? All right. I will see y'all. If nobody has any questions, I'll see y'all on Friday. All right. Have a good day.